Episode 100, son.
Yeah.
That feels pretty good.
It does. Also, how dare you break one before me?
Yeah. Did I? I think it was I know my burps smell like farts sometimes.
Did you burp?
I like that
No,
you
I
weren't
didn't.
sure, though. Like, you're like,
Yeah.
did it?
Did I?
You let one loose,
That's
you
the
didn't
most
know what
old
came
man
out?
thing
Oh,
I've
it
ever
completely
heard.
is. Did I really sneak one out? So you do it. If you've done it so many years of your life, it's not like you don't know you do it, but it's so like automatic
Right.
and subconscious. You're like, oh yeah, that happened. And
Did
you're
the
like,
room clear?
Yeah,
You didn't fart.
and then you don't care anymore.
Right.
You're like, oh, you're gonna deal with it because I'm here.
I know someone who did that. I've known
No, I didn't.
someone
I
who
don't
did that
believe
in
it.
a hospital elevator.
Oh, that's just that's offsides.
We have a family member,
Yeah, that's enclosed environment. That's not fun.
The man's a menace. You take him anywhere, and
Yeah.
he's just gassing the whole place
Yeah,
out.
that's not right. No, I usually will warn someone. I don't believe I did. I do a self check. No,
Okay.
I didn't have one on deck, so we're good.
Well, I taste something.
Well, I'm sorry. It was not me.
Be a natural gas leak.
It might be. So anyway, thanks for filling in last week.
Yeah.
That's a great episode. I've said this before. I really like your breakdown of even at your own match. I think it's super valuable. So
Match study.
we should keep doing
I had
that.
a decent amount of people say that they enjoyed that, so we might
Well,
have
you got
to make that.
a lot of views for it too. So I think it's a good thing to maybe have kind of on the semi-routine rotation.
Yeah. I'd be interested to hear. Would people like to hear a breakdown? So what I do is when it's my own matches, it's a little easier because I know what I'm thinking in the moment. I know what I was feeling.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. I can break down other matches. So if people want to see like a breakdown of a Marigali match or something,
Or if someone wants to video their own sparring session and kind of submit it,
yeah.
we could do that too. And
Yeah.
like, hey, this is the, I mean, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt
I'd
you.
be down for something like that. Like
That's cool.
if people would find get something out of that,
Some
then
value in that.
yeah, because I kind of obsess over it so I can know what I'm talking about. I review it like quite a bit. So if people are interested in those kind of those match reviews, then I'm down.
I think it's really beneficial, especially having you do it really well. And it's nice to be like, especially if it was my own, because some things I'm watching, I know you might bring up something, hey, and this is what happened here, why this sweep happened, or you missed this opportunity perhaps, and this is why this, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think it's valuable at all levels. I think.
For sure. Especially if, one, it can be hard to remember stuff. So having like a set of eyes like kind of point out.
Absolutely.
Pretty nice.
Yeah. So anyway, that was cool so I definitely wanted to make sure I wasn't here. I was here for the 100th episode.
Yes.
I felt like I was at like Guantanamo Bay or some place getting tortured for 5 hours.
That's what happens when you roll with me.
No, it wasn't that. That's what happens when you roll with your dental hygienist and then an orthodontist on the same day for 5 hours. Oh my gosh.
Brought you back to Nam.
No, that's my dad's generation. I'm not that old.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah. Anyway.
Well, with that, I appreciate that.
Yeah,
Appreciate that. Appreciate 100 episodes.
100 episodes.
Feels pretty spicy.
Mm-hmm.
Hello to all the new followers because we got like 100 followers
Yeah.
in the last few weeks.
Yeah, guys. And people that are new here, we have an extensive back catalog of, I like to plug some of the health stuff too that you might not know that we do.
Because that's a big part of this podcast, which
Supposed
is
to be, yeah.
We're 2 black belts, and Olivia's a purple belt in jiu-jitsu, but Chris also is a physician.
Yeah.
And that's a big reason why we started this podcast, was to talk about grappling, health, wellness, but also kind of deep dive into we're not big supporters or proponents of the current medical system.
Let's just say the least. No.
Yeah.
No, anyway, a lot of people, and I see this how many people, and by the way, anybody listen to this is at our academy, don't take this in a wrong way at all. I like the questions I get, and when people pull me aside, I know that's what I'm there for. That's part of my contribution to our community. But a lot of the questions that are being asked of me is because people are left out on their own. they've had a 15-minute doctor's appointment where they probably have lots of questions and stuff, and they don't get them answered for a variety of reasons. A lot of the system is set up to fail that way.
Can't hear you.
I can't hear you.
I didn't say anything.
I thought she said something.
No.
Was your volume up on your phone?
Yeah, I was. Just ignore me.
Oh, wow.
She got caught.
We have a breakdown. Look at her over there. She's like watching. Anyway,
No.
holy cow. And you know how I am. I got something now. It's like, it's
Squirrel
probably,
brain.
Oh, now I got to, no, anyway. But just using our academy as kind of a microcosm of what probably our whole jiu-jitsu community worldwide deals with, especially in this country, the medical system sucks.
Yeah.
Unless you're having, trauma or something like that, then it's fantastic. But for regular preventive care and stuff like that, it's horrible. So any questions you guys have that you don't feel like might be related to jiu-jitsu, it all is, because it's your health and wellness. It's your bodies. And so just send them our way.
Right. And I'll always read those because he doesn't know how to do email. So don't worry about that. Or DMs. He doesn't know how to open Instagram.
No, I choose not to.
That's what I say too. So with that, we got a couple topics.
Okay.
Liv, hit us with the first one.
I'm sorry, what?
Hit us with the first question.
Gosh, I have to go back.
She's watching Real Housewives of
No, I
Beverly
am
Hills or
not.
something.
Is it that one?
That's her favorite, right?
Beverly
Real
Hills.
Hills.
No, I like the Salt Lake City.
Okay.
What's an interesting twist?
Didn't expect that.
I deleted that question. We had talked about it in the last episode with you two, which was, should black belts know how to teach or instruct to get their black belt?
Right.
I think that was
And I think it was expanded even, like, if in our opinions, we are young black belts. So we're both a year and a little over a year. But in our opinion, what are some things we would look for a black belt? That was, I think, another kind of second part.
Part of that, exactly. And should the ability to teach be part of that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go on.
That's controversial.
Go for it.
Okay. So we all know really high-level black belts, or we watch, there's plenty of them out there. High-level competition, all that. It doesn't mean they're good teachers. And we see this in all facets of life. I know some good physicians that I would not want a medical student rotating with.
Right.
Because whatever they do, they can't seem to. Teaching is an art, and some people are naturals at it, but it's something that has to be worked at and developed. So I always think about my strength and conditioning thing when I was a strength and conditioning coach as well. Everyone needs, like if I'm teaching a squat, if I teach a squat to 10 people, there may be all 10 of them need a slightly different cue that makes sense to them, or something that as far as form and all that. And I think the same as you probably gathered as having a regular class you teach. And when I do fill in for Andrew, everyone we could be doing the same technique, and everyone's not going to pick it up the same way with the same approach. And you have to go around and maybe cue them a different way. And it's hard to convey that. And so I don't think achieving a certain amount of skill in jiu-jitsu does not necessarily mean you've achieved a level of expertise in teaching. And they're two different things. I don't think that should be required.
To get your black belt.
No. Because people are in jiu-jitsu for different things. Some people want to compete. But I do think it should be encouraged. And I think that if you are a professor and you have someone that you see as a kind of a natural communicator, it'd be nice to kind of bring that along some and kind of take them under your wing and give them a little responsibility. Because at the end of the day, we need good instructors. Okay, whether it's you're filling in for your professor needs someone to fill in for them, or just in general, as jiu-jitsu spreads and the black belts go and open their own academies, it's nice to have if let's say that you go elsewhere and open your own school and your lineage is Cascade Jiu-Jitsu, it's nice to have like, wow, this guy, people from this lineage seem to be good instructors too.
Right.
So, but I don't think it should be a criteria for getting your black belt necessarily, just because people are in it for different reasons.
So I'm not going to say the exact same thing, but I'm going to kind of also merge the second part of the question. So I think that, and tell me if you agree or disagree,
All right.
that I don't think you have to be, to get a black belt, you have to be a superb teacher. I don't think so either. But I do, at least in my opinion, and I think both of our opinions on what it takes to get a black belt will change, obviously, over the however many years until we're able to give black belts. But I think you need to get your black belt, you need to be able to convey technique. So what I mean is, I think you need to be able to explain at least the basic mechanism of the techniques that, maybe not every single technique. You're breathing in the mic, you big animal.
I'm not.
Usually you're over off on the side.
Oh, I didn't even.
Yeah, I could hear it.
Oh my God.
You're just a buffalo.
There we go.
But I think for at least all the basic and fundamental stuff, I think you need to know how to explain it. You need to be able to convey. Maybe you're not great at conveying it. That's different. Just because I can pick on him because he's my friend, I'll say Jake. Let's say Jake is a little bit of a straightforward person, and he might not be eloquent when he explains a technique, but he can explain. There's an understanding that he can verbalize it. Maybe not super clean, maybe not a humorous way, yada, yada. But he has the understanding, which means he can convey it. Okay. I think a black belt needs to be able to do that.
I agree with you, but let me play devil's advocate.
Sure.
To what end? Why?
I think it displays true understanding of the techniques, and it's, I think, a truer understanding than being able to apply it in the moment. So you have people that can, these are typically maybe, we're going to generalize here. You have your competitive black competitors, maybe not even black belt, but competitors, which get really good at a pretty small sect of moves, and they're razor sharp and all the way up to black belt, right? And then you have some people that are maybe good at a whole bunch of stuff, right? They have their fundamentals down, but they have a big Rolodex of moves that they're pretty good at, okay? So just because that person that it has that small amount of moves that they're razor sharp with, often I've found that person can't actually convey what they're doing very well.
I've seen that.
Yeah. Where they are phenomenal at applying, but it's almost so much feel into their application. They don't have a true understanding. Now, I'm not saying that disqualifies you from being a black belt or something like that. For me, though, if I'm going to give you a black belt, I want you to be able to explain what is going on. And it doesn't have to be super granular, where it's like, some instructors, they are going over the most finite details or fine details of this grip and that grip. I'm not saying that, but at least the basic mechanisms of at least fundamental positions. And then even on top of that, which oddly, most jiu-jitsu moves are just fundamental positions in different ways, right? So to get a black belt, I think you need to at least have some ability to explain.
How would you quantify that?
It's going to be subjective to me, basically. But that's why I think jiu-jitsu and other things are kind of cool, because you're going to have a Lucas Lepre black belt. You're going to have an Andre Galvao black belt. You're going to have an AOJ black belt. You're going to have an Andrew Solheim black belt, a Chris Hardy black belt, whatever, right? And there's going to be certain things that come with that, like a Lovato black belt, a 6 blades, right? It's almost I think it's less important now. It's less, that lineage isn't quite as identifiable as it used to be, where if it was a Carlson Gracie black belt, you knew they're going to have this certain sect of moves and they're going to be good at them. Same with the Salo and like the Hibero brothers, like back in the day, like you knew pressure passing was going to be the thing that they do. Headquarters, knee cuts, right there, right? I think that's kind of, I won't say been lost, but just because of the size of jiu-jitsu, more personalities, more influence, more of a crock pot. YouTube, exactly.
So you're saying it's diluted a little bit.
Yeah, from being that thing where it's like if I went into a gym, interestingly, like I was going to use this example and I just kind of proved myself wrong, but I was going to say, would people know that I'm an Andrew Solheim black belt, right? Like just by rolling with me. And the reason I kind of almost is a bad example is because I've actually been told that a few times that like, oh, I can tell you're an Andrew Solheim black belt. So, or brown belt as well as when I heard that. But I think that kind of influence, like you just said, part of YouTube is a big thing with that because we're going to learn almost more from YouTube and stuff like that than we will in our individual classes because we're going to be working on stuff that we are attracted to naturally. But we'll typically ask the instructor how to fine tune those things and then how to clean things up, let alone all the other stuff we're doing in class.
You know, you brought up a really good point. You know, reconsidering some of, listening to what you were saying. Because then when you're promoting a black belt, there were a reflection on you and what you think is important.
Right.
So I think, I'm going to take back a little what I said.
A subjective thing, right? That's where it
but
comes
what
in, right?
So for me, if I had to have someone that I was, this wouldn't be set in stone, but right now in my young days as a black belt, looking forward to, when I'm a second degree and I can, promote a black, is it still that? Or is it gone up?
Is it up to third?
Or has it gone up to third now?
I think it's still second degree from what I
thought it was third for some reason.
I thought it changed recently. But at any rate, whichever that is, it'd be nice to have, like for me, I want them to have some good terminology on fundamental biomechanics to be able to explain things the same, you know how like Eddie Bravo did with his 10th planet system. It's his fingerprint. Those positions are named,
Right.
But the same thing, I'd want some good biomechanics. I'd want some good knowledge about, hey, how do we really truly warm up for injury prevention? And instill that in my black belts and be able to, and I do agree with you too, in a certain extent. You shouldn't be like a black belt level technique and then a white belt comes on, how do you do that? Oh, I don't know.
Right.
That doesn't look good either, right?
Yeah.
You should be, I do agree, you should be able to communicate somewhat on what you're doing.
Once again, it's not one of these things where you have, like, that doesn't mean you're a teaching professor. Like,
No.
I think you said I think that's probably reserved typically, depending on the situation. A good teaching professor is literally that. They have a knack for teaching. And a lot of time you can tell, I think, when you go to a gym and you see a passion with the instructor. Sometimes you go to a gym and they're on their phone while people are drilling technique and they're just sitting there on their phone, just kind of looking up every once in a while.
Yeah.
Or during sparring rounds, they're just not even paying attention. They're not paying attention to like their students rolling, which is like how you're going to evaluate. Like, okay, we need to do this better, this better.
Well, that's just someone phoning it in, right?
Right.
Yeah.
That's
I don't
crappy.
Teaching
professor.
You're just doing a disservice to your students. If you're taking on that role, if you're even going to fill in for instructor, you need to take that seriously and you need to develop that craft. Otherwise, you shouldn't be doing it.
Yeah.
Right. I agree with you on that.
Be a pro.
Yeah.
Just be a pro. What are some things off the top of your head you would want out of your black belts? Like, what are some things for someone that's a brown belt that's right there? What are things that you are going to want to see? At least right now. This, like we said, this is going to change for sure. But
I want to see good fundamentals as far as their mechanics in the basic position should be pretty razor sharp. They should know some of the little details. It's not just like, from, I mean, what I guess it's easier for me to say what I don't want to see. There's some people that are really, really good at an A game they have. And they've neglected, and they've been very successful both in competition.
Sure.
And in sparring
Very
and all
common,
that.
this
where
stereotype.
they've neglected a well-rounded game where they like, hey, what about spider guard? Well, I don't play spider. Well, you probably should dabble.
Or you only play spider.
Or you only play spider. Or whatever it is,
Yep.
right? Like, no, I don't play close guard. Well,
Easy.
I was eyeballing you a little bit.
Easy.
No, I've seen you play close guard. But you should have a good, very solid fundamentals in all of the basic positions. It doesn't mean you need and techniques. Your jiu-jitsu 101 should be really, really sharp and being able to tell me, like, if I'm going to promote you, you need to tell me what you're doing and why you're doing some things. I can even pull you aside.
And that's kind of what I mean by explaining stuff.
Yeah, and I think you're right. As I'm talking through this, I think you're right.
Say it again.
I think you're right.
Honey, did you record that?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I give you a hard time, man. I think
I'm
you're
gonna
right.
I'm gonna put that in the little highlight that we've been doing.
You should. I didn't say Bill is always right. No, but I think as talking through this, and like if you put me in that position, what do I really want in that? And if you can't show me from, I don't care if you're a short, like stubby guy like me, you should be able to show me good triangle mechanics from closed guard and be able to use minimal effort and really kind of know your, it comes back to me, the biomechanics, because that's what jiu-jitsu is.
You want someone to be able to explain why
I'm doing this, right?
So they can show the proper triangle technique that you're talking about.
Right.
But why as well?
Yeah.
Be able to at least convey why this is the proper.
Yeah. Why I'm, on my latching leg, why am I internally rotating my hip during the finish? Right. What are my choke points really? Well, what are they? Because a lot of people, when we get new white belts in, or even at blue belt level, and they're working way too hard on a lot of these things, and being able to explain some of the, the most efficient way of doing it. Your jiu-jitsu should be pretty efficient too at black belt level. Yeah. With some of the, I don't mean you need to be an encyclopedia of moves. Right. I'm certainly not. Right. But I think I know my basic positions well. So, and also you need to divide, and I agree with Andrew on this. You can be, we've talked about this before, people can be like overly, and you shouldn't at black belt be like overly aggressive that every roll is a death match, but you also shouldn't be ultra passive too, right? And you should be able to have a bit of that grit and dog in you as well. Really embrace uncomfortable positions, so I don't know. I mean, you don't want a black belt with in my opinion, with a glaring hole in their technique of fundamental jiu-jitsu. Yeah. And I think we've seen that from time to time.
Oh, I mean, definitely.
I think a lot of them are, they're very successful in competition, thus they, get their black belt. Yeah. But that's
I tend to agree with pretty much most of what you're saying there with, I definitely would want them to be able to explain stuff. There has to be, in my opinion, well, I think you guys, like Carrie's a perfect example, right? She's not going to, from a physical standpoint, be able to do things that Mo is going to be able to do.
That's right.
Or Jason or myself or something like that. Or just someone that's more youthful, if you will, right?
Or doesn't have a total hip replacement or whatever.
Right,
Yeah, exactly.
right. There's going to be physical limitations that certain people have, whether that's due to age or something else. But I think in those cases, that's where the knowledge part comes in even more. Maybe the application is not going to be possible as much, but the knowledge then, time on the mat, it typically might be a longer time served, I could see. Not always.
That's a good example.
I can see that there might be a longer time served for someone that doesn't have the ability, whether it be physical restrictions or whatever, that makes it so they can apply it. But so let's say Carrie isn't going to be throwing up triangles left and right. Okay. But she knows how to explain everything we just talked about. Right.
That's right. And when she does, yeah.
And I think that's almost more required in that scenario.
Agreed. And what you're saying is like during a sparring session, the athleticism sometimes required to, but in a static position, she absolutely has a razor sharp triangle and can show it.
We've heard about John Danaher, where Craig Jones, which is not really a fan of John Danaher anymore, at least, or at least it appears so, he's talked about before they split up how it's amazing that the guy that doesn't spar really at all for a long time, like very little sparring he's done, and it's always light, can apply techniques flawlessly in a drilling sense when he's showing technique and stuff like that. That it's when you feel it, you're like, this is like phenomenal. Craig Jones talked about this. But obviously he's crippled. Right. So he's not going to actually be able to like roll and apply some of these moves in a real sense.
In real time.
Yes.
Right.
Especially against athletes.
I'd argue probably one of the best instructors in the world.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a great point too.
So I think I agree with the tenacity thing. I think you got to have at least a button that if a blue belt is getting wily, you have the ability to prove that jiu-jitsu works. I think that's kind of part of the tenacity piece is, yes, we talk about size doesn't matter and jiu-jitsu and stuff like that until you both know the same amount of jiu-jitsu, then it really matters. And even less than, like, if us being black belts, if there's a blue belt that's a freaking athlete that's 200 pounds, it's going to take every bit of us to hold them and like not get hurt ourselves, right?
I had a guy come in, has a sumo background.
Oh, yeah.
It took me 3 minutes to sweep the dude.
Yeah.
So, you're going to have that, right? And coming in. So, I mean, with just incredible.
Yeah.
But yeah. So.
And I think, that's actually a really good example because we have about 13 or so years age difference between
you and
us.
I.
Yeah. In that same guy, I can do a little bit better with, I think, just because my athleticism. Our technical abilities are basically the same. Obviously, we do different techniques as like go-tos and stuff. But just because that guy's pretty athletic, he's quite strong. Like you said, sumo background. So some sort of athletic background.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I have maybe better mobility or something of that sort than you currently, I can handle them better, right? But once again, as those things change, if that guy becomes a blue belt at some point, it's like the or even a purple belt, or he gains some size, or it's a different guy altogether, right? It's that story changes a little bit. So size and athleticism does come into play, especially as we get older. So what about blue belt? What is something or some things you would want to see for a blue belt, for your blue belt? And I can kick it off if you want.
No, I have the biggest thing right now I want to see is someone that is comfortable on their back in bad positions and has good escapes and hasn't gone to the whole, well, I'm athletic, I'm going to play top game my entire weight belt. And they've neglected their guard completely. And I've seen that a lot.
Yeah.
that's big. And like, oh, I don't want to get on the bottom because they don't have good mechanics with their like escaping side control or escaping.
They're just
mount.
losing when they get on bottom.
Yep. That's the main thing. I want to see them comfortable in uncomfortable situations, and I want to see them using good mechanics. I'm not saying you're going to escape every time.
Sure.
But you're doing the right things at the right time, and then you have a handle on some of our basic positions. You should have an escape from every bad position, at least one that you
from
know,
the core ones,
the core ones, and at least know, have an idea about maybe a submission from, well, not from having your back but from the offensive positions.
Yeah, I think I agree. I definitely, because your whole white belt life when you're rolling with other belts is pretty much losing. Your defense should pretty much be in line, like as in you should know how to get out of an arm bar at least a couple different ways, whether that's stacking, hitchhikers, reverse hitchhikers, whatever, lawnmower, putting a leg in between your legs, getting rid of the leg off your head, whatever, frames, grip structures, trying getting out of triangles, at least have some sort of semblance of a logical response.
Yep.
Yes, the basic subs, bow and arrows, collar chokes, defending the neck, basics, pinning escapes from bottom, knee on belly, mount, side control. Like you already said, this doesn't mean you're just getting out. I don't just get out.
No, but you want to at least be doing the right stuff and have the good mechanics.
Right.
Yeah.
Application. You don't have to be absolute, have black belt level escapes, but I think you definitely need to be able to do them. This is, in my opinion, a good barometer, is be able to apply some of these pinning escapes against newer people that have you outsized. Submission escapes are harder to judge because they won't know a submission. So they're not going to put you in a good triangle.
Correct.
But if they do, you should be able to get out of that. Not that you never get caught. But from a pinning perspective, that's a good barometer. In my opinion, is if someone bigger than you that doesn't know much, male, female, can you get out? Are you doing things to defend yourself? I think that's a good judgment because a blue belt, in my opinion, in most cases, we're taking out your college wrestler that came in, or even high school wrestler that came in, or this bricked up athlete or something like that. We're taking kind of these outlier situations, or the judo guy. We're taking them out. The guy off the street, even a newer blue belt, you should be able, in my opinion, to win that round. I'm not saying you're beating the brakes off him. But at a minimum, if you're on bottom, he passes your guard for whatever reason. It happens. They're spazzy. They do something crazy that you're not used to. You're starting to get used to jiu-jitsu responses. They do a non-jiu-jitsu response, and out of nowhere, they're right there. And you're like, oh, my gosh, what just happened? Can you recover? And then, are you able to sweep? Maybe not. I think you should, in most cases, be able to. At a minimum, though, are you off-balancing?
That's right. Or that's a fundamental, the Kazushi and learning, that's super important.
Because just from a self-defense perspective, off-balancing Kazushi is huge. Because if you're off-balancing someone, they can't punch you.
Yeah.
Right? They have to keep track of their balance,
It's
their footing.
Classic closed guard drill, too.
Right.
Right?
Exactly.
When they're rearing up to punch you, you
Yeah.
pull them and juke.
Right. Same with scissor sweeps. It comes from an off balance. Your stand-up game comes from off balancing. So I think those are some core things. Submissions, I would like to see some semblance of competence in the basic ones, but I don't hate if there's some sloppiness in there. in the finishing.
Of course, because those take years to really fine tune.
Big time.
Yeah,
big time. But there's certain things that I personally like. I have a pet peeve with arm bars. It's like my jam. I feel like I'm an arm bar guy, and I want to see my blue belts have a devastating knee squeeze, a leg curl, and the ability to eat a burrito like nobody's ever seen. That's my way of saying pulling. But
you might have a weird thing with you want someone to be able to polish off a dozen donuts before class before they get their blue belt.
All I'm saying is I don't want to hear about your tummy ache.
He called the sleeve grip a tortilla the other day.
I like it.
I'm a man of. Is it colloquial? Is that a term?
Colloquialism.
Yeah.
Colloquialism.
Yeah.
Did I nail that?
Yeah.
Did I use it right?
Yeah.
Thank you. Read it in a book.
In a book.
You did not read it in a book.
No.
Work out your mental sweat too.
Yeah, I like to.
Oh my gosh. So no, but again, that you're describing that arm bar, that's a fun. You describe fundamental mechanics.
Yeah,
exactly what I'm talking about. The squeeze, making sure you're way up into the shoulder.
Yeah, you have the shoulder loaded.
Totally, and then pulling that neck back with your hamstring.
Wrist control, blah blah blah.
Yep.
Like those kind of 4 elements of a good arm bar.
Right. And even if you can't like hit it in a scramble, you can throw one on from, from mount pretty easily or, the mechanics.
For sure. Yeah. With the black belt thing, part of me is like, I don't know why I put so much on. Like, I think there should be a mental knowledge. I don't know why. Like, I feel like that is more important than almost application.
Well, but I think the point of this whole conversation is that's your criteria.
True. Yeah.
And you have the right to have that criteria if you're promoting someone. Otherwise, if someone it's what people want out of their academy. Yeah. And you want to develop this type of black belt.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that.
When I see people that are just hard rounds, like they're just hard to deal with.
Yeah.
Like a purple belt or brown, whatever. It's like they can give you a hard round where you're like, you're getting after it. You're getting the better of them maybe, but it's like, it's a tough round. Like that person getting the next belt, like I would want to just, I almost would hold that person back longer, at least in my opinion now, because they're probably tough because they're mentally tough. And then they have that trigger of tenacity, which makes the round very difficult. So it's easy to get by on just that rather than actually working on stuff that you're not good at. Like, let's say you just do spider guard or you just do lapel or something like that, and you get by it just being a tough round.
Well, not only tenacity, but what you're saying is that person also has 2 or 3 things that are super sharp.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But maybe has neglected some stuff that you would like to see.
Yeah, like what's your passing look like? Are you just a guard player?
Right.
Or vice versa.
Or vice versa.
Yeah. Just some thoughts.
No, it's a great discussion. I'd like to hear other people's opinions, especially other black belts that have been black belts longer.
Yeah. Are we retarded?
I don't think that's in question. I think it's a rhetorical question. I would like to know what their opinions
Mom,
are.
get in the comments. Let them know I'm not.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's what you said is like your opinions are going to evolve over time. And eventually, if either of you have your own gym, those are going to also change over time as you have students, I think it's just,
Well, and you know what? My focus is
male butts.
That's never been proven. Safety, injury prevention, good biomechanics. Yeah.
Clean beehole health.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
We can promote bidets at.
We're gonna buy one.
It's catching, isn't it?
Come show me how to use it.
I think you can figure it out.
I just want to say that I looked up the general system of graduation on IBJJF October 2022.
Sounds fancy.
And Article
7-21.
Subsection 3.
Article 6 says The graduation of an athlete to black belt can only be signed by a black belt professor who has at least 2 degrees. Now, if you're a provisional black belt, that black belt who's promoting you would have to have 3.
Wait, what's that mean?
So provisional would mean you did not register your brown belt
Until you're a black belt.
until you let's
so
say
they
you-
haven't kept track of you the
Yeah.
entire time.
So then, but you have a black belt that's willing to vouch that they are
So
giving
that,
you.
in that case, that's where I heard the 3rd stripe.
Maybe. That might be
okay.
a newer thing.
Yeah, I
The-
knew
the
I'd
thing that
heard
we heard.
something.
And so then that person, when you're a provisional black belt, you have to like stay under that association and professor
For 2 years?
for 2 years.
Okay,
And then you become a non-provisional.
I see.
Yeah.
Because I've registered mine every step of the way.
Yeah, not me.
Me neither. I need to.
Still haven't
I gotta
registered my
get on
black
that.
belt.
Yeah, you should probably get on that, Bill.
Wow,
Especially because Master World is coming up.
I would say probably a good idea. So that's the second. Yeah, so that's
Okay.
not a lot of time, really. If you think about it,
6 years.
6 years, to kind of really
Hone that in.
hone that in. That's a lot to think about too.
Yeah. Liv, what's the other question we got?
Okay, so it was about when a colored belt puts in like all of their effort into a sub and then black belts up their intensity afterwards.
I've seen this recently.
And then colored belts being like making comments about it.
What comments?
I don't know.
I haven't seen that, but I've seen.
Like, oh, now you're going harder, huh?
I witnessed this on Saturday. I won't call anybody out, but let's say there's a black belt named Bill.
Guilty.
But I think that's pretty normal.
So I've been called a spaz.
I wouldn't call you a spaz.
You called me a spaz.
Yeah, but I don't mean it.
It seemed like you meant it.
I just do it to hurt you. But I don't think it's the truth.
Stuck
got
with
him.
me. It got me.
I don't think it's the truth.
Right. Boots called me a spaz, and then you jumped on that bandwagon,
Of course I did.
monster. And I talked about it with my wife for the next week.
He did.
If that's all it takes, damn.
Did you hear my shot? Was he at that class that I was teaching? And I brought it up?
Yes.
Did you hear the shot I made? I was
Tell
talking
me.
about, I think, was the arm bar?
Yeah, you were
Yeah.
showing the
And I was like, and some people, they'll like do this, and some people call that being spazzy.
spazzy.
And then some people call it escaping. You didn't catch that?
Yeah, but I didn't make the comment that was spazzy.
True. You just vouched it.
No, I just heard someone making fun of you, and I jumped on board. I don't care if it's true or not.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, so
Boots
no,
can kiss my ass.
Yeah, no, you're not spazzy. But back to the point,
Elevation.
turning up a gear.
Yes. Yes. Back to the question. So typically what happens is we're talking black belts and then lower belts. Or no, not just black belts, but maybe you're a brown belt, maybe you're a purple belt, and then a white belt or a blue belt or whatever gets a good position on you, a submission position. And velvet ropes fall from the ceilings, trumpets start playing, people are swinging around, and they feel like this is their moment.
Yeah.
So then they grip and they rip. Right?
I don't even think it has to be like that. I mean,
I'm saying this is something that happens. Is that
Oh no, I have another little thing that happened to me recently that I can
Please.
tell you about.
Please.
No, a really tough brown belt I was rolling with had an excellent catch on a submission, and I turned it up afterwards. But he did a great job.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Why'd you turn it up?
it was actually trying to be a little funny. It wasn't like I was like,
Did he find it funny?
yeah, because I was laughing. I was like, all right.
Okay.
Yeah, like just almost like fake. Now you're in for
But
it type
internally, why'd you turn it up?
because I don't know. It's like a response. Like, oh, you caught me. All right. Good on you. Now let's go.
Right.
See if you can catch me now.
No, not but let's go now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think there's some good natured, especially at that level. I think there's some good natured competition.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's bad. as long as it doesn't get out of hand and
Right.
you get butt hurt about someone submitting you. Man, I love it when we have some of our colored belts and they get you dead to rights. And that's awesome.
Yeah.
But then I'm going to be like, all right, now I'm going to try. You know what I mean? It's just one of those, it's like, here's a good shot they got on you, like ping pong. And then I'm going to watch this return. You know, that it's that. It's nothing more than that.
So after I was ridiculed for being spazzy, I took it to heart. And I was like, well, fine. Then I'll just let people start tapping me. If people are going to be like...
That's so stupid.
And so I've been not fighting as hard out of taps.
Oh, my God.
And it's been very painful on my ego.
On your ego, but not on your body.
A little bit on my body, honestly.
Really?
I got ankle locked the other day by Ray, and it was like freaking did not feel good.
He's got a good ankle lock, though.
He does. Now, but this is the thing. So I find I'm all like, you want to get a sub on me? That's great. I think that's good. I need that as practice, right?
Crystal's so skeptical right now.
I'm giving you the skeptical snake look.
Why?
Sure you
No,
do.
go. Please go. Go. Please continue.
So, but if you get in a submission position and you are having to put a tremendous amount of physical effort, like where you're shaking or you're like really like ripping,
Like grunting.
Grunting and
Grunting.
Yeah, okay. I like
snot
it.
bubbles,
I like it.
you are probably not applying that submission very well because you're having to put so much effort into it. When you think about if, let's say, a black belt taps you a bunch, they're probably never putting in that amount of effort on you, right?
Yep. Typically.
So, which I understand one of my subs on that guy, I was...
A little rough.
We'll get there. So, if you're having to put that amount of effort into it, typically your technique is not very good, and you're just trying. You saw gold. You saw your gold medal of hanging a black belt scalp on your head.
That's not what they saw.
What they say?
They in their head they've heard all of the little nonsense you probably told them over the last 6 months, and they see your little bald shiny head, and they're like, "Yes, son. Now it's your time." And they may not be in the best position, but they're going to go for it.
They're ripping.
They're going to rip it.
Sure. That's probably part of it.
Yep.
And what?
I didn't see anything.
Oh, and so when I feel someone go after a sub on me with that amount of tenacity, that gives me the notice of like, okay, so that's how hard we're going to do submissions. Because I wouldn't have done it that hard to them.
So that's their informed consent that they just checked that says,
Yes.
from now on to the rest of the round,
This is the intensity.
this is
level.
the intensity you've just told me.
It's kind of like in the beginning. I let people set the tone.
Fair enough.
I'll pull guard. If they start passing like super aggressive, then I know, okay, we're going to have one of those rounds. That's fine. It's not like that. And then once you, like, let's say it's actually a chill round, and then you grab something and fall back on an ankle and you're ripping, or you try to heel hook me or something like that really hard.
Oh, no.
I'm going to respond with the same amount of tenacity. Is that appropriate?
Sure.
Okay, can I just step in and say, I agree with Bill in the sense that I know that if I try to do something really hard and intense against a black belt, I'm expecting that they're going to reciprocate that. If I rip on a sub really hard, I'm expecting them to put the same intensity into it. So just saying.
So they're just matching.
Yes. Now, there's a difference when, let's say you don't do it in that fashion where, okay, I got into a submission position and then I just ripped on a submission. I didn't quite catch them, but I went for the glory, right? There's a different scenario, which is you just swept them. Clean sweep, clean technique. It wasn't overpowered or like this grunting kind of scenario. It was just a clean technique. Maybe it was a submission. Maybe it was a sweep. Maybe it was a guard pass, right? You'll typically feel upper belt turn it up in that moment too, but a different kind of turn up.
Yep.
Because what's happening in that moment, tell me if I'm wrong here. My thought when I get got like that, whether it's a legit sweep or whatever, I'm like, oh, they're getting better. I need to put in more effort, not to the point of killing them, but I need to put in more effort because, one, it's going to be better for them. It's better for me. This person is now elevating their sharpness of skill to where we can actually have a more competitive role.
So exactly. And so it goes back to Andrew likes to roll just above his student.
I don't believe that when I was
He
coming
does.
up,
Trust me.
because he would beat the shit out of me.
Yeah, but he does.
That was not just above my
Yes,
level.
it was. I guarantee you it was, because I've seen him really turn it up, and that's
He
scary.
used to ragdoll me
Well-
and armbar me multiple times around.
Yeah, but
Same with Mo. You want to talk about Mo?
no. No. I'm like,
Which I'll say these are my influences, so we'll get back to that.
So, but I think you said it very well. Now that you've established a new baseline for this colored belt, they were at a lower baseline. Now they're at an upper baseline, and to maintain that kind of, to give them a look that they need, you need to then elevate what you were doing with them, where previously you weren't having to do that. And all of a sudden, maybe you haven't rolled with them in 3 months, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, hello.
Yeah. A little sharper.
Which is cool.
Yeah.
And then you're like, okay. And it's like playing chess. Here's my move then, and now we're going to elevate our game a little bit,
More technical responses.
which is great.
Or whatever.
No, I think that's super appropriate. I think it's mutually beneficial.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now, back to the first example. The person that rips on something because they happen to finally get in a good submission position.
Yeah.
Is it appropriate for, whether you've seen this recently or not, and call me out if it's not, is it appropriate for the upper belt to then apply that amount? Now, it was pretty aggressive tenacity.
What?
Is it appropriate for them to do it back?
No,
Son of a bitch.
it is not. So in that, sorry, I burst your bubble there. What it's appropriate is you should still maintain your level of control as a black belt. You can quickly put them in a submission position. And what I think is more instructive,
Does a neck crank count as...
that's not a good idea. For instance, let's get into a position where then it's not a quick one and you just slowly boa constrict them, like a head and arm or something.
Or a face crank?
No. You can get them quickly and cleanly. I don't think it's a let's just rip anything we got, because that's how that escalates and we have injuries. And people end up getting hurt feelings too. They may have done something and you're like, hey, afterwards you'd be like, hey man, that was a little rough there. And you can show them what you thought about that by getting them into a dominant position and slowly squeezing the life out of them, but you don't have to do it unsafely and reciprocate in the same manner. Does that make sense?
What if you're petty?
That's what I'm trying to do. You shouldn't be.
Oh.
You're a freaking black belt here at the academy. You should not be petty. Bill.
Black belts get emotional too.
They do, but they need to. There's a higher expectation for you.
In my defense, it was the nature of the submission
I know.
that made me want to apply a face crank.
Well, I saw
belly
some
tap.
knees on neck.
It was more face, but
No.
I think it was neck too.
I was 5 feet away.
It was both.
Watching.
It was both. Because he had a nice little mark on his
I know.
eyeball and his chin.
Bill,
The
you didn't tell me about
the
this.
face crank was probably the worst.
I didn't know about that either.
Yeah. So I witnessed this whole thing, and I saw what set it off too.
Yeah, well, exactly. He was watching what set it off, and he was kind of cheering.
I like how
Well, I
Bill
was- as
is,
soon as
like,
I
trying
saw
to
that-
blame, your influences for this behavior.
Huh?
What?
His?
No, yours.
Oh, maybe.
Ultimately, you could have gotten the same message across in a kind of a smashy way.
Yeah.
And made things really uncomfortable without, not that you did. You're always very controlled. I'm halfway playing with you.
The face crank was a little mean.
It was a little mean.
Especially because the amount of effort I had to put in.
Yeah.
I think you saw my face.
I did. Well, not only did I see the effort in your face, I saw the maniacal grin on your face, which was like, yeah.
Yeah, that was, I had his back. And he was, I went short choke over the jaw.
I know.
And I whispered in his ear.
You
want my ankle, you little son of a bitch?
I was chuckling the whole time. Like, as soon as the thing happened, I'm like, oh no, here it goes. But it was funny. No, you didn't do anything. I personally would have done a little bit, something not quite
less
as
obvious.
Yeah, maybe less obvious where no one could see it.
Because then after he tapped to the face crank, I just slapped him in the back and I said, let's go. Yes. I was like,
but it's also, and you know, we're, those of you listening, we're joking around. The person doing this, there's a mutual kind of a shit talking thing going on, and you got to know the person you're doing with this. This isn't just some guy coming in.
He wasn't sure though if he actually made me angry, like, which I understand that he might, because I typically do not go up the intensity like that.
Yeah.
And when I do, it might be with an Andrew or a Mo, where it doesn't look so dominant. It's like I'm upping my intensity and I'm still getting my ass kicked.
Not only it does not look dominant, it's not dominant.
No, right. It's still me getting my ass kicked. I'm just moving a lot faster.
For sure.
Into my ass kick.
I think the bottom line is there's nothing wrong. You can be instructive, and then afterwards, like, hey, that's a little rough, and I chose not to reciprocate like that. I had some openings that we could have done something kind of nasty, and I just, I made you suffer in another way that was a little safer.
Yeah.
You don't have to say anything.
Right.
But I don't want things like that escalating to where now we're just at all costs, we're just going to rip on people.
He did ask me, he was like, are you mad at me?
Yeah. So if someone's asking,
I said no.
and especially a guy like that he's not not a snowflake.
What do you mean, you people?
Especially a guy like that.
Oh, yeah. So, and I think for lower belts, if an upper belt does turn it up on you, that doesn't mean they're mad at you.
At all. It could be complimentary.
Especially if it's after you got a threatening sub. It is complimentary. Like, that's our way of saying, good job.
Good job.
I'm going to smash you now.
But you've made me have to up my level.
Yeah, you're forcing me to hurt you. That's what my dad used to say.
I feel like I have to do disclaimers after every single and like what Bill really means is
he was abused when he was a child.
Yeah.
His dad dropped him off at it.
No, if you feel an upper belt turn it up on you after you got a good position, did something well, good on you, because now we've both elevated where we're going with, and you've come up a notch, and that's everyone's job to make each other better. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Is that diplomatic? Is that too diplomatic? I know you guys don't like that.
No, I think it was probably good.
Nikita likes it when I get really fired up, and
he does.
Yeah.
I know I wasn't very happy that I did what I did to him.
How did you feel about that?
I didn't feel great.
Okay. Then that should tell you everything.
Yeah. But
go ahead.
Hearing him gurgle did feel good.
In the moment.
Yes.
That's like eating something you know is terrible for you and you're going to pay for it. And you got that mouth feel that was good for a second. But
I will say, though, difference between that example is when I was eating ice cream that night, I was thinking about the gurgle sound, and it made me happier in that moment.
That would make you a sociopath.
Well, with that, we got more questions for the next episode.
With that, we're cutting off right now. Chris has made me mad.
Like, subscribe. If you guys have any comments or anything like that, you want us to talk about any specific subjects.
And send in some videos of some sparring if you want Bill to break them down, because he does a great job.
Yeah, you can email us grapplingwithpodcast@gmail.com, and then we can set up a Google Drive or something like that.
And shout out to my daughter again down in Colorado, continuing now her blue belt journey.
Yeah.
Super proud of her.
When she comes up next, we will have her on again.
Yeah, we will.
Peace, y'all.
Later.